Welcome to the Business Women Australia podcast show, the podcast that brings together industry leaders to discuss the latest trends, insights and strategies. So sit back and relax. Let's get inspired by the amazing women who are shaping the future of professional women in Australia. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
So welcome to the Business Women Australia podcast show. We're live streaming across YouTube, across LinkedIn and Facebook, and of course we're available for catch-up listening after the show wherever you find your favourite podcasts. So I'm the National Director and Founder of Business Women Australia, and today I'm delighted to have the wonderful Laura Porter on the show with us. Laura's the WA State Manager at Connect Business Insurance. She plays a pivotal role in fostering strong relationships between clients, underwriters and her team. She's got over 15 years experience in insurance and brokering, and she's become a trusted expert across a variety of very diverse industry sectors. I know this team pretty well at Connect, and I can vouch that Laura is known for her thorough approach to assessing and managing risks, providing tailored insurance solutions that allow businesses to focus on what they do best. They provide the insurance services for my own consulting practice, and I've actually got quotes from them for other things. We've just bought an Airbnb, and they did a lot of research around that and then came back and said, I think there are some specialist insurance brokers that you can chat to about that. So they're really honest. I just thought that was amazing how the team did so much work for me that really didn't benefit them, but that's the kind of approach that they have. As we delve into some of the great subjects that we're going to cover with Laura today, you'll get to really understand sort of her values and the direction that she has with her personal and team growth, and this very strong focus on relationships. But she's going to go into that more. She's absolutely a wonderful and highly regarded leading member of Business Women Australia, and we have a wonderful collaborative partnership. So we view Connect Insurance as our trusted insurance provider, and we would highly recommend that anyone who's listening to this show, if you are needing insurance in your space, in your business, reach out to these guys. So, Laura, before we get into these questions that we had originally planned, I'm really keen to understand, what insurance is like as a career for women and how you got into this space.
Sure. Well, thank you, Lyn, for having me on the podcast. And insurance as an industry or as a topic, probably is not very sexy. People don't go, oh yeah, I love insurance. I mean, I personally don't like paying my insurance bills, but if you take that out of it, you can make it a little bit more, fun and exciting. The insurance industry is one of the oldest industries. So effectively, we're trying to add new blood in, or new women, new ideas into that older industry. So effectively, what happened for me to get into insurance, it's one of those industries you kind of just fall into, so to speak. Unless you've got, a mum or a dad who's done it, you kind of don't learn about it at school. You don't really understand what it is, and it's just kind of fall into it. So I left school, graduated, decided I didn't want to do uni. Did an OH&S course at TAFE, mainly because I wanted to drive a ute around to mine sites to see, all that type of thing. And then I realised that no one liked the OH&S person. From there, I was looking for a job, went to a recruiter. She just said, oh, QBE are looking. And I was like, well, what am I doing? They're like, oh, it'd just be data entry. It's like, perfect. Started data entering and then realised that there's more to insurance than just sitting there putting in the data. Became an underwriter within a few years, and then realised that broking was more my style. So that's where you go and have that client relationship. From a woman's perspective, you can run your own kind of race. So whilst the insurance industry is male dominated as such, there is a lot more women coming through in higher positions, probably because we offer something a little bit different to men. We can be a bit more empathetic, a bit more understanding. We like to nurture those relationships, the trusting relationships, which, insurance is. You're buying an intangible product at the end of the day, so you take on the word of the person that you're dealing with to have your back. When claim time happens, it's all well and good for insurance companies to take your premium, but when you really need them for a claim, you want a broker in your corner who understands kind of both sides, understands the policy, to be there. So that's pretty much how I got into insurance. But I absolutely love it. So
and how did you get into those kind of roles as a broker, and then moving into the state manager role? I mean, it's wonderful to see, a female in those leadership positions. How'd you get there?
Well, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak. No, it's just understanding those relationships. So understanding the importance of there's three parties to a policy, I suppose. You've got your client, you have your insurer, and then we're the broker in the middle. So understanding that key relationship, I was very fortunate where I worked at the start of my career. I was kind of thrown in the deep end by one of the directors. So I learned a lot very quickly. I then wanted to understand more about the insurance industry, so I moved to London for a couple of years and played in the Lloyd's market over there. And then since returning back, my focus has always kind of been on helping people. I really love helping people. I don't like the word no very often in any sense, but especially when it comes to insurance and an insurance company saying, no, we can't do that. You probably can, or there's always multiple ways to skin a cat. And I think it's my problem solving capabilities and abilities probably has helped me get to where I am, I guess, today, not just being come in, do my work and kind of go home. Not that saying that, people who do that aren't valued. And I a lot of my staff members are like that, which is great because we need them. They make my job a lot easier. But yeah, that's kind of how it's got to, is just, understanding and really pushing and, doing courses and, leadership classes and courses, and really wanting to be not just a insurance broker, but being more of a leader, help the staff, get them to really, go out of their comfort zone, do well, and to get to that next level as strong women within the industry, and obviously at home as well. Because you want to.
You're an incredible person. I can just tell through the way that you speak, this, the values that are important to you, the hard work, the ethic around, commitment and focusing on the needs of others. I mean, even today, you've had someone in hospital in your family with a hernia, and you got on and said the show must go on. And that, that's extraordinary, and that's how you get to the top, right? Is having those kinds of commitments to things. That, if I can deviate a little bit from our plan, how have you been able to manage this juggle that so many of us find really a struggle? Getting into those higher level and senior roles and juggling all the commitments that happen outside work as well.
Well, I'm not going to say that I'm, a pro at it, a professional at it. I mean, no doubt there's been some times there where, I put work before my home life. And that was probably a few years ago when I was really trying to get to, I guess, to the top, if you want to call it that. I don't like that boss mentality, but I wanted to obviously do better and be better, which, you make some sacrifices. I had a relationship breakdown. Was it caused by me working too much? Probably, but I was also dealing with some stuff at home that I didn't want to deal with at home. So my focus, and we all do it, we always focus on what gives us the greatest hit of dopamine or the greatest love, and work for me is that. But one thing I did realize, or have realized, is that you can't 100% focus on work, because one day you might wake up and you've got to the top, but there's no one around you. Family, friends, and even the colleagues to some degree probably go, and I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be at the top of my game, so to speak, and have no one around me. So now I realise that the importance of bringing people with you on the journey. My partner doesn't really understand what I do as a broker. He doesn't realise that, come 5 o'clock, I can't just lock off. Whereas, he's on a construction site, 2 o'clock, knock off, go home. You don't worry about it till tomorrow. If I get a phone call at 7 o'clock at night that someone's car's, had an accident or their house is on fire, or, one of their employees who might be working late, sliced a finger off, they will call me. And I want them to do that, because a lot of times situations happen and people don't really know what to do, because you buy insurance but you've never really used it. Something you don't think everything's ever going to go wrong, it does, and then you go, holy shit, who do I call? Can't call Ghostbusters. I'll call Laura.
You're not going to go out and look at your policy when you're in a crisis, right?
No, and then once again, it's the flip side. When you are in a crisis situation, your heightened state of stress, you're probably not thinking straight. So you need someone who can come in and be like, this is what you need to do. I will do this. You just do what you need to do. And a lot of the times clients will call you, great, because they trust you. But a lot of the times the clients don't call and try and deal with it themselves, which is great. However, sometimes they can really muddy the waters and make it very grey. And then in time realise that they probably should have just called me in the first place. So there's also that mistrust sometimes between insurance companies and brokers and what we do. We aren't an insurance company. We are a broker. We represent you or your business. So I always try and have that conversation with my clients. Like, if something goes wrong, tell me the truth. Tell me everything. I will take that information and I will obviously analyse it and then pass it on to the insurance companies in a way that,
best serves the client.
Best serves the purpose, or best serves the client.
I love that, because, I've never really thought about that, how the insurance broker is the one that has your back. Yeah. And they're your partner in the crisis, that you are going to need them, and you're going to need the knowledge of how to navigate the claim and navigate your protection in the best way possible. So that's a massive message out there for any business owner or anyone with an insurance, even their personal insurances, to actually think of their broker as their strategic partner, as a part of their team.
I mean, my mum, as much as I try and drill into her about insurance, once again, about a year ago or something, I gave her a quote and she goes, oh, it's a bit expensive. My mum's recently retired, so money's a little bit tight. And in my true mum fashion, she rang up RAC just to check quote me. She asked them some questions, around jewelry, because my mum has, not an extensive range of jewelry, but she's got a few nice pieces there. She asked questions like, would my jewelry be covered when I go traveling overseas? If my diamond fell out of my ring, would that be covered? If we have a pipe explode in the bathroom, what type of cover, what am I covered for, or what do I do? And the person on the other end couldn't give them any advice. They just refer to page 63 of the PDS, because they're not allowed to give a general advice, right? Yeah. When you see a broker, we are governed, or we are allowed to give you some general advice, not personal, general advice about things. We can have general conversations about claim scenarios. And then obviously using a broker, sometimes the products that we might get are better than what, I call it mum and dad insurance. So mum and dad ring up, they get a quote, budget online, compare the market, whatever. They see an ad on TV, and they just buy insurance thinking that it's all the same, but it's really not.
And that sort of takes me into then sort of this next area. I mean, you've got all sorts of different insurances that you offer. And what I found interesting is that, you've got insurances around mining, construction, transport, aviation, these kind of core industries that we have in this state and around the nation. What are the unique challenges that face those kinds of industries, and how do you then tailor the solutions to meet the unique needs of the different sectors?
Cool. So I will say, number one, the most important question that I ever ask, and a lot of brokers don't ask, is, do you have a contract? Have you signed any contracts? And everyone's like, oh, no, I haven't signed a contract, but I've got a PO, purchase order. So if anyone's ever looked at a purchase order, On the back of a purchase order, all those words, that's a contract. And a lot of brokers don't ask for that because that essentially sets what type of insurances you're going to need. So some insurance liability policies require you to have principals, indemnities, extensions, waivers of subrogation, cross liabilities clauses. This is all probably jargon to you right now, but to me, that's the language I speak every day of the week. Now, if you ring up an online, insurer, you'll buy a policy, you'll put in what you do, concreter. Now, but you might be doing concrete on a mine site. That mine sites are excluded under a general policy. So the insurer will send you the book. Half the time you won't even read it. A claim will happen, and then you'll go, yep, I have insurance because, liability insurance is liability insurance. Got to put a claim in. They'll investigate and they say, no, we have an exclusion here for mine sites. You didn't tell us about that. Your premium online might be 2,000. Mine might be 10. So it's once again, it's understanding contracts is probably the most important thing. And then from that, it's then understanding what they do. So the scope of works. So what does your business do? If I said to you, hey, if I rang you up looking for your services, what do you do? And websites are great, but they also can be a detriment because you go on there and put everything you want to do. An insurance company is going to look at that and then they're going to go, oh, do they do, bridging? Do they do tunneling? Do they do, underpinning? And then you'll ask the client, be like, oh, do you do this? Like, oh, no, but we can. We just put it on our website. So websites are very important tool that are used by insurers to see what you're actually doing. So it's understanding the scope of work. So what you're actually doing as a business is number one is key, plus your contracts, any contractual obligations that you might have. And then from there, it's then going, right, turnover, wages, claims, all of that type of stuff. But one of the most important things is, how you're being engaged to do the work that you're doing contractually. And if there's no contract, then get one. And then also if you're engaging with contractors or labour hire, have a contract with them. I know a lot of older school businesses have always just done things on a handshake or an expectation or an assumption of doing business. When shit hits the fan, I can guarantee you that relationship or that handshake goes out the window when you've got $1 million, $2 million incident happening. Get a piece of paper signed right at the start, make it very clear, make it very evident, and then you may never ever refer to that contract ever again. But contracts and contractual obligations is number one in any business. Terms and conditions is probably one of the most important things I can say to anybody, whereby you're offering a service so that there's a clear understanding of what and who is responsible for what.
And as a broker, is it like a mortgage broker? Do you have a range of different insurance kind of things that you look at, or does it go deep inside the platform on which you're associated with in terms of the insurance offering?
Yep. So we are not affiliated with any insurance company. Right. So we're not a sales rep. So Elders, if you ring up Elders actually represents QBE. So if you deal with Elders, they'll say they're a broker, but they actually only represent QBE. There are other brokers out there that are affiliated with an insurer. They're just kind of like a sales rep, I suppose. We are definitely not. So as part of this, we are what they call an authorized rep. So an authorized rep is a broker that's licensed to sell insurance or to advise on insurance on behalf of, we are an authorized rep of a company called CBN or Community Broker Network. So that's the license holder. So when it comes to insurances, you have to have a Australian Financial Services license holder. That is CBN for us. And then from there, I'm licensed to be able to advise and under their AFSL or their license. And then we are owned by Steadfast. So Steadfast is actually one of the biggest insurance. We're not really a company as such. We're just an insurance organisation.
Aggregator? Is it an aggregator type of?
Well, Steadfast is listed on the ASX, and in that group, I suppose we have a network of ARs, authorised reps. They also have some underwriting agencies, which I'll go into what they do in a minute, and then they also own some financial interests in some brokerages. So they're kind of like our buying group, I suppose, if you want to call it that. So they go and do a lot of negotiations behind the scenes of schemes, and they're also there to support us, through, and our clients, if there's a claim that goes not so well, they can come in and step in. They offer a lot of training. They offer a lot of support to not only to the ARs, but also, how to run your business. And then obviously they're great. Robert Kelly, who is at Steadfast, he designed or created Steadfast to be just as big, or if not bigger, than the international brokers, the likes of Aon, your JLT, Marsh, who are international. Steadfast is international, so we are obviously represented worldwide. So whilst I'm an AR at Connect Business Insurance, I have access to that network. And
that's extraordinary, because that means you can look after potentially Australian companies that are going international.
Absolutely. Yep. I just had one the other day. I picked up a client, an IT company based here in Perth. Turnover a couple of years ago was about 3, 4, 5 mil. Now they're turning over 50. They want to go into Canada. So I'm navigating, placing, they've got some employees in Canada. They're going to have, an office there in the US, the UK, all of that type of thing. So the head company is domiciled here in Perth, but they're going to be international. I'm obviously helping them navigate that whole insurance program instead of them finding a broker in Canada or whatever. We can do it all here from
Okay, global. I think that might be our next podcast, Laura. Going global. What insurance risks do we need to cover? Just got a great idea. LJ, If you're listening, I love it. So tell me a bit about you mentioned how the underwriting works. Tell us about how that works. What does it mean?
Cool. So effectively, as a broker, it's my job to understand my clients, which is one of our key things here. So really understanding the business, understanding the client, understanding, what they do, how they do it. Do they have any risk management protocols in place? If they do, what does it look like? If not, help them to get some in place. With the recent changes in, OH&S and even work cover here in WA, we're navigating through all of that. And there's obviously some changes with the legislation. So it's my job to kind of understand that, understand the client, understand what they're doing, and then work out which insurance product or products are best suited and which insurer. So you can say liability. Everyone goes, well, what's liability? There's product liability. There's public liability. You've got employers, liability. You've got a whole lot of different liability, professional indemnity, crossovers sometimes. So it's understanding and explaining to clients what that is and how it looks, and why you would need it. And then if they have contractual obligations, going to certain insurers or certain underwriters that understand it. And then the role of the underwriter is to take the information that I give them and then essentially price the policy, price the risk. Now, the more information I can give to an underwriter, the better view they would have on that business, and then they price it accordingly. So you might have a construction company who builds houses, right? How many residential building companies have we got here in WA? Thousands, hundreds, right? But this particular client might do something differently. They might have, a different way of doing work. They might use robots to lift the bricks. So therefore, they're avoiding or reducing the manual labour component. Therefore, you'd expect less liability claims. Oh, sorry, not liability, so workers' comp claims, because you're not going to have potentially many injuries on site. So when you understand that and explain that to an underwriter, they will price it and probably give you a discount because they know that the chances of a workers' comp claim coming through is reduced because they've used a risk mitigation strategy such as a robot to lift up bricks and things like that. Do they offer an in-house, gym program for employees whereby so you could go to the gym and focus on your core strength and your mobility, so you're less likely to have a workers' comp claim. And when it comes to risk, liability claims, do they, do site risk assessments? How often are they doing those risk assessments? Do they have who they've got qualified in OH&S roles? Do they have an injury management provider? Like, there's understanding all of that about your business, which makes you different. And then the underwriter takes that information and obviously prices it accordingly.
So that really brings to light the importance of a business to be able to articulate and cover all this so that you've got oversight, so that you really understand what their strengths are and understand where their weaknesses are in order to be able to then help them sort of get things in place that's going to potentially minimise their risks and minimise their premiums.
Absolutely. Yeah. The more questions we ask you, and we get more information from you, the better outcome we're going to have. There are a lot of clients who won't tell you anything. That's obviously what they want to do because
that's not going to serve them, really, isn't it? Maybe they, it's classic, isn't it? Because it comes back down to this trust. It's a bit of a marketing brand issue between the insurance industry and business. Is how do we build greater trust between the broker and the underwriter and the business so that there's a better outcome for everybody?
And it's a bit of a message. Yeah. Sorry, you go.
And a bit of a message to businesses who are maybe cutting costs or, like not doing things the right way, that eventually that's going to cost them, right?
Absolutely. And, if you have a couple of claims, you have a couple of big losses on your balance sheet or on your books, and you might not have a claim or you might not have insurance because you haven't told us a simple question, that will potentially sink your business. So, but once again, it's understanding our clients. So, I can send you a proposal form with 25 questions. You fill it in, send it back to me. I can get you a quote. Absolutely. But there's sometimes questions there which, is not a yes or no answer. It's great. Do you undertake pre-employment medicals? Or yes or no? Well, yes, we do, but we only do it for guys who are going to sites, or we might only do it for select employees, or, all of those types of things. So once again, it's understanding the business. Proposal forms and those question sets are great to get a basis of a start, but they're not enough. There's not enough there to really paint the picture of what the business is and what they do. I'm not saying that we need that level for every single policy or every single business or every single presentation. Home and contents is your home and contents. You're not going to have too much difference between, all of that type of thing. But bigger businesses, or if you have, once again, the contractual obligations, send us the contract. Clients don't send us contracts, or they send us snippets. I'm like, if you worry about you might put a tender in and you've got some pricing in there, take it out. I don't really care what you're charging for it. I just want to know the words.
Yeah, totally.
Even clients who come to us and they say, oh, yeah, can you get us the best quote or can you get us the cheapest quote? I'll send you my current stuff. And they go and highlight and white out all the premiums. To me, I don't really care. I just want to grab that information, understand it, and then go back to you and go, hey, you are selling, I don't know, diamond rings. Did you know that on your policy you actually have a diamond ring exclusion? Oh, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, okay, so you pay $1,000 for a policy which has an exclusion for what you're actually doing. Then I can sell you a policy for $2,000, but doesn't have that exclusion. What would you do? So price, once again, price is important, but it's not always the most important thing. It's actually the policy coverage, because once again, you could pay $500 for a certificate online, have a claim, and then they knock it back and you've paid $500 for a piece of paper thinking you have insurance and you don't. So once again, it's understanding that. And I've always had the philosophy that I'm not going to sell you insurance. I don't tell them I'm an insurance salesman or a sales rep. I'm a risk advisor. I will understand the business. I will give you a risk mitigation strategy, i.e. insurance. And then it's up to you as to whether you want to buy that or not.
Yeah, it's a great approach. So how do you stay on top of all the changes in the insurance industry? There's been a lot of different policies and products that you would have seen over the years.
Yes.
And how do you ensure that your clients don't get locked into something that's maybe out of date now?
Yeah, so once again, it's understanding. We go to a lot of seminars, so we have a lot of training. As part of our qualification, we have to do 25 hours of training. So that can be going to seminars. We have a few conferences a year, which are a lot of fun, balls and all of that type of stuff. And then obviously they do have leaders talking about changes. Attending, once again, monthly seminars with various different insurers or lawyers, legal teams, talking to my peers. So, within the CBN group, there's, I think, about 300 brokers, and we're all that community broker style. So, if we ever have a question, we can ring another broker and go, hey, how did you navigate this? Or we've got the backing of Steadfast. So really, there's a lot of material and a lot of understanding. It's just if you want to go and read it all, is how we sort of become better brokers. And to be honest with you, claims. When you have a client who has a really juicy claim or something else like that, you learn a hell of a lot very quickly. And that sticks with you, because once again, I don't want my clients to go and deal with a claim on their own. I would rather do that. And then you learn a lot about policies and policy wordings and policy coverage. If you've ever gone to try and read one of those PDSs or policy wordings, instantly you're going to read it from front to back, but you actually read it front to back, back to the front, into the middle, back to the other side, because there's so many different cross sections and so many different understandings and wordings that it's not as simple as just on one page yes and then one page no. There's always exclusions, there's always endorsements, there's always conditions. What is the meaning of contents? What is the meaning of stock? What is business interruption? What is theft? What's defined as electronic equipment? What is defined as public liability and product liability? Like, it's just so broad that you need to have, once again, someone who's read a lot of them or gone through claims to be able to be there in your corner.
Absolutely. I love this concept that you have of partnering with your clients, and now that you're in these management roles, you've got a team that you're developing and supporting in their ability to have an approach to client service that replicates what the values of Connect Insurance is all about. So how do you do that with a team to make sure that they're also partnering with the same way that you want them to, and how do you differentiate Connect?
So I guess one thing about Connect is following our core values, understanding the client, building trust, educating, commitment, all of those types of things. So what we want to do is we want to really understand our clients, number one, but we also want to educate our clients. So not only just sell them an insurance policy and see them once a year. So from that, it's making sure our employees here also understand the clients, also understand what's going on with them, asking the right questions, where to go to get information, and then where if they have a claim, how did it get managed? Where come and speak to me. If there is a situation arises, come and have a chat. And I really want to try and work with the girls I work with and the guys I work with. I'm not a tell you the answer. I want them to come with a solution or what they think should happen or what they think would be the outcome. And then I try and let them have that rope, so to speak, or throw them in the deep end, and be there to support them. And have those hard conversations with the insurers, which I don't mind kicking their butts every now and then, because the insurer's not always right, but also on the flip side, the client is not always right. And we've had situations where clients, haven't told us that they bought an excavator, which they've had for the last few years, and then all of a sudden it gets written off. And that's a hard conversation, because I've got to try and be like, right, navigate through the employee first of all, because they've now got a situation where they're doubting themselves. Did they ever ask that question? They've got a potentially $100,000 claim on their head. Then they start to doubt themselves and go, did I ask that question? Is there any information here? Did I miss something in a meeting? Have I missed an email? So they have that stress component. So it's managing that, plus also then being like, right, how do we solve it? Like, is there a provision in the policy? Can we call on something in the policy, which might help us with this situation? Do we put it back on the client and say, we've asked you 10 times because we've got all the documents, our note taking and stuff. Do we go back and say, really sorry, it's not covered when we've asked you 6 times before? Because that's a very hard conversation to have.
Totally, especially when they're at a time when they want to claim. And I imagine, just thinking about what you're saying there in terms of equipment, and of course being in Western Australia where we've got a lot of mining service suppliers and equipment, and PPSR must, that's been in place now for so long, and that is a quagmire of issues and complexities around ownership and who owns what and if they've added it to the register, and that's would have implications with insurance, which I've only just thought then, wow, the whole insurers, I've always come from a perspective that, from an accounting and finance perspective in terms of tracking and depreciating and asset values, and from an insurance, it must be a nightmare.
I can tell you one thing: accountants and insurance brokers, we have a love-hate relationship when it comes to that depreciation component, right? Because you want to try and depreciate your assets right down so you don't pay as much tax. So when you tell me a sum insured figure for something, it's based on the depreciated value, not the replacement value, whereas I want the replacement value. And we have had cases, once again, an accountant's put a prime mover, for example, is depreciated over the years for 80 grand. But we know in today's market, you cannot get a prime mover for less than 150K any day of the week, a good one, obviously. So we had a situation, they got paid 80, not the 150. Now, had they have just reviewed their schedule and put the market value on there, they would have paid a bit more premium, yes, but they would have got $150,000 for the prime mover, not the 80, which actually works out. They would have paid less than that much money in premiums, right? So accountants, we have a real love-hate relationship when it comes to things like that.
But I saw that too, even in the home insurance space. When the secondhand market for cars just shot through the roof, and all of a sudden, the value that the insurance were putting on the secondhand cars for replacement value hadn't actually met the market value. So there's sometimes a bit of a lag too with
clients with agreed value. So we had once again another client. Nope, I only want agreed value. I want agreed value for all my cars. I'm like, okay, no worries. You pay a bit more for agreed value. They had a Toyota Hilux. Let's say agreed value, they put $50,000 on it. They had an accident, written off in the time of the COVID and To get one was going to cost them $70,000. Now, if they hadn't insured it for market value, they would have got the $70,000. But they shot themselves in the foot by getting the 50.
It's classic. It's like the stock market, isn't it? Trying to hedge. I love it. Like, what's the value of all my property going to be? What's it worth? It's just, who would have thought that after COVID, secondhand stuff just went through the roof?
Yeah, buildings at the moment, I can guarantee you there's probably 70% or 80% of properties out there that are severely underinsured at the moment because, once again, you built it 10 years ago, it cost you $1 million. You add your land and all that type of stuff in, and then you'd be like, oh, yeah, it probably cost me $1 million to build it today. You get someone out there, it costs you 1.8 because of the cost of building and materials and all of that type of stuff. And you don't think about those types of things. So I always say to clients, when we are reviewing property schedules and property information, every year you should be going up by at least 10 to 15%, not negotiable. Like last year it was $1 million, this year it's 1.1. The premium to go from 1 to 1.1 is minimal. You have a claim and you're underinsured, you actually lose 20%. So this
is interesting because a lot of the risk managers and governance managers won't necessarily be all over this, in terms of thinking about the insurance aspect of the valuations and how that they were relying a lot on these processes and the finance teams providing the information that just gets slotted in. So any risk and governance managers, anyone's out there that are in the CFO teams that are managing all these kinds of things, don't think of the insurance as a bill that has to be paid. It's a part of the strategic thinking and the risk management of the organisation. And I think this has been a really important theme that's coming through in hearing your expertise and your insights, Laura. Before we finish up, what I would love to hear is, you've been a state manager now for over 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been with other insurance providers before that. And what are some of the leadership challenges you've encountered in the role, and how have you kind of navigated the challenges and the opportunities in the space?
So I guess it's, once again, broking. We are brokers at the end of the day, right? So brokers, we're all a bit different. So, personality comes into play a lot when it comes to our positions and our roles and understanding relationships. And every broker is different. So, you've got some brokers who are really, flamboyant. They want to go out for a lot of long lunches and all that type of thing. And they have a different strategy on how to do your business. They might not ask you all those
I'm
questions.
laughing because I've come from the world of, like Big Four firms and stuff like that. And it's like some partners are like that and others are just like slogging in the background with their managers, just delivering value.
So the long lunch, right? But you've also got, I guess, some brokers have relationships where they're friends. So they don't ask those questions because they just make an assumption on certain things, such as, do you use labour hire companies? Those questions might not get asked or they might not be spoken about. And then a claim happens and it's like, well, they will throw you under the bus very quickly because you haven't asked those questions. And your friendship and your relationships go out the window when, as I said, when you've got a $2 million loss sitting on your desk. That long lunch is out the window, and they say, well, you've known my business for 20 years. We've gone out, lunches. I've gone to your kids' weddings, and now we've got this situation. Why did you never ask me? That's generally the head relationship, and then you obviously within that you've got your team. So it's making sure that your team understand the questions to ask and making sure that they know their clients. And then obviously coming to leaders who have dealt with claims or have dealt with certain industries. As I said, you have a steel fabricator. They're not the same steel fabricator as every steel fabricator down the road. They are slightly different. Their business models are different because that's why in business, you've got to have that point of difference. So leadership for me is, once again, is trying to instill, I guess, knowledge and experience and problem solving into staff and seeing them do well. I really thrive on when my team have wins and do well, because I think we all win together. I might have been there to help them get the claim over the line, but effectively I'm the one that's pushed back and I'm the one that says, you need to make the phone calls, you need to do the hard sell, you need to, I'm not going to come in and save the day, so to speak. I'll help you and I'll give you the tools and I'll be there to assist you, because I want them to do well. I don't know if I've answered the question, but
you really have. And I can just see that incredible focus that you've got, and your approach is really will be inspiring to our listeners, who are keen to get into the senior roles in terms of how to go about it. You clearly got a style of leader as coach. You're not spoon feeding your team. You've kind of been brought up through a baptism of fire yourself, so you're kind of giving them a bit of that sort of stretch. So you're empowering them to grow and develop, and within these beautiful guidance around really asking the questions and putting the client at the centre of what you're delivering, and how you are truly moving it from being the broker, the seller, to being the advisor and the risk partner in a lot of ways. And I just love that, Laura. It really is extraordinary. And you probably haven't even thought about it or communicated it in that way until we've had this conversation. Sometimes, what I've found with women who are in these strong leadership roles is that they just become these leaders because they do what they intuitively know is right. And they've had good managers and bosses over the years that have mentored them and that have believed in them, quite often great men who have supported women in their growth journeys, and then they're replicating that for others. So I really am totally grateful for this. And there's so many. You said, insurance is not sexy, but it's certainly a lot more sexy than I thought it was. And I've got to say,
it's fun. There's
so many questions that but I realised we're almost 45 minutes, so we're over time, because I just love learning, and being inside your brain. So anyone who's listening, if you haven't done an insurance review, it's time to do some due diligence. Is your current insurance working for you? Talk to Laura, get some fresh eyes on, get some, do a bit of a pressure test on what you're currently doing, because it's quite possible that your insurance is not up to date and you are possibly
you could be paying too much. You could be paying too much, or you could be paying
too much as well. That's the other side of things as well. So great messages to market there, Laura. I think this has been a brilliant show. Who would have thought that we could have so much fun talking about insurance? I was actually learning about bonds the other day too on the market.
Oh, yes.
And they're more interesting than I thought they were. So look, thank you for coming on. Thanks for listening to those of you who are listening live or who are on catch up. We're on all your favourite platforms, whether that's iTunes, Spotify, or if you're finding us on the Business Women Australia website. In our resources section, you'll see all our past podcasts and our recorded webinars in there as well. We are all about raising the profile of female leadership and sharing important information around business growth, business improvement, personal and professional development. So this is a great example of what we do at Business Women Australia, tapping into the genius of women like Laura Porter. So thank you so much for being here today, particularly under the circumstances. My gosh,
No, that's
the show
okay.
did go on, and the show's been great. And if I can get my outro correct, I did a good job with the intro, and I managed to speak without leaving myself on mute for 5 minutes like I did last time.
Oh gosh, okay.
I think we've done well, Laura.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much,
Again.
Lyn. And obviously, I'll leave with we listen, we care, and we get it at Connect Business Insurance. So reach out if you need anything. And as you know, Lyn, if there is a better product out there, we will review it, and we'll obviously always recommend the best outcomes for our clients, whether it's with us or whether it's with one of our competitors. Clients are obviously at our forefront.
Well, I've experienced that firsthand, and that just what it did for me was it just built such incredible trust. So we'll be bringing all Business Women Australia's insurance across to you next year.
Fantastic. Awesome.
I didn't realise there was a whole process of having to write a letter to disengage and, decouple. So I was a bit late this year round, but I will be. I've told my current insurance provider we're moving everything across. So
no worries. Awesome. Thanks very much. Looking forward to continuing the relationship then.
Yeah, awesome, Laura. And I'm going to try this outro. And everyone, if you're looking for Laura, find her on LinkedIn or on the Connect Insurance website. And she's also on our Business Women Australia directory. So all you have to do is search her name, Laura Porter, and you'll find how to contact her.
You have been listening to the Business Women Australia podcast show. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode and gained some valuable insights to empower you on your journey. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to stay updated in our latest episodes. And if you're not already a member of Business Women Australia, what are you waiting for? Head to our website today and join so that you can connect with a thriving community of inspiring women across Australia. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.